What's up, comic book community? My name is Joe, and you're watching 360 Comics. Today, we have a very special guest. Jim from Bronzeville Comics is coming on, and we are counting our favorite issues from certain numbers, starting at issue number 11 and going up all the way to issue number 20. We did issues 1 through 10 on his channel yesterday, so make sure you check out that video. The link is in the description below. If you haven't entered our 2,500 subscriber giveaway here on YouTube yet, now is the time to do so. You have a chance to win this Edge of Spider-Verse number 1 in 25 variant, and it is a 9.8 white pages. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up for a like, and leave a comment down below. And then I'll be picking a winner based upon the comments. So you can check out our other videos and like them and comment on them for additional entries. Good luck. All right, so getting down to our list, like I said yesterday on Jim's channel, we did issues 1 through 10. We talked about our favorite book for each issue number. So you're going to want to go check out that video, but it doesn't matter which order you watch it in. Let us know in the comments, do you agree? Can you think of another one that would, be worth mentioning at a certain number? And yeah, let's get started with issue number 11 here. I'm going to kick it off with the odd numbers this time, and Jim, you're going to be taking the even numbers here. But yeah, issue number 11, which really stands out to me as not only like a great cover, a phenomenal cover, one of my favorites for sure, but also a historically iconic book, because I think it kind of depicts the end of an era and the start of a new era. I'm talking about X-Men Volume 2, the 90s X-Men, number 11. This is the last Jim Lee cover on that X-Men run, and it was right before him and several other creators left Marvel and created Image Comics. Now, this kind of not only shows me marks the end of the the end of the Copper Age, and moves us into the modern age, or the 90s age, the foil age, whichever you call it. Yeah.
Foliage.
Right. But it also, Image Comics has had a huge impact on the industry and creator-owned material that it has just become extremely significant. And this book, to me, really signifies that change of an era. Not only was Jim Lee leaving this run that's often discussed as the Jim Lee X-Men run, but he ended it with just one of the best covers he ever did, in my opinion. And certainly a book that anyone can recognize. He was an X-Men collector. It's affordable because it's a 90s book. There's a lot of them, and pretty much any collector of X-Men books is going to own this one, whether it be a raw copy, a reader, or a 9.8.
A good pick. Actually, I just came across another copy of it in a long box from a collection yesterday.
Yep.
Not a 9.8 contender though, so check out my whatnot next week. What I picked was a DC Silver Age classic and the introduction of a character who we've seen in the movies, but we probably won't see again for a while, and that is Aquaman number 11, the first appearance of Mera. Mera, obviously the romantic interest of Aquaman, becomes his wife, becomes his baby mama. We've seen her portrayed by, we all know who played her in the movies. It'd be interesting to see what they do with that character in the next movie. Obviously, they're probably, hitting a brick wall with the ending of that movie, not really spinning it out into anything else. But just kind of, it was an iconic character. Aquaman really was the first DC character to be married. I think his marriage predated Flash's, and Lois Superman, didn't work up the courage to propose to Lois for another like 30 years.
Yeah, a couple decades.
Yeah, Aquaman moved fast. I mean, I think it was issue 18 they got married, and like 25 they had a baby, and then their baby was dead in the 70s. One of the characters that's never come back.
Huh.
DC likes to kill babies.
Wow.
They killed Donna Troy's baby. They killed Aqua Baby, and there's some other baby they killed. Who was the other baby they killed? Anyway, definitely is another dead baby in.
We'll come back to that one.
I could do a whole video on dead DC babies. But Mira originally was conceived as being from another dimension. She had her own unique water power. She had the ability to create hard water objects, sort of like Green Lantern's power ring, which was different than the abilities Aquaman had. And their relationship has been tumultuous in the comics over the years. Obviously the tension in the marriage after the death of a child that they had to deal with, which is a very dark topic for a 1970s comic book. But this was the one I picked. There were a couple of others. Amazing Adventures 11 is the first furry beast solo story. Interestingly, Police Comics number 11 is the first appearance of the Spirit, Will Eisner's Spirit in comics.
Oh,
he had been in newspapers prior to that, and he was in the comics briefly, and then they replaced him with another character, Midnight, who looked pretty much the same, but wasn't done by Will Eisner. And then Tim Holt Comics number 11 is the first appearance of the original Ghost Rider.
Oh, like the Carter, what's his name?
Burwell?
Carter Burwell?
Maybe not. Maybe that's like the name of like a bowler or something.
I want to say Carter Slade. Is it Carter Slade?
Could be. Is he related to Deathstroke?
Yeah, Carter Slade Wilson. No. All right, moving on. We got issue number 12. You're going first on this one, and I think I know what book you're going to pick. Yep, I knew it.
Batman Adventures number 12, the first appearance of Harley Quinn. There's a character who we saw first in the Batman animated series upon which this book was based. This series, obviously was a series intended for kids. So it's a difficult book in grade, even though it's from the early 90s, and is one of those modern grails to find in a 9.8. Harley Quinn then crossed over into main DC continuity, has been one of the most popular characters really in the DC stable. You go to any big comic convention, you'll see numerous people dressed as Harley Quinn.
Dozens.
Obviously Margot Robbie portraying her in the movies, potentially Lady Gaga doing, we don't know. She's had her own movie with Birds of Prey. That was sort of a solo film, but she's been in both Suicide Squad films. And is possibly, I think, has one of the best chances of being a character that crosses over into the new DC extended universe.
Sure.
That James Gunn is helming.
Mm-hmm. I also picked a villain, and I initially wrote Batman Adventure 12, and I crossed it out, and I was swayed by my love of X-Men. We're going with another X-Men book, 2 in a row here, but this time from the original run back in 1964, maybe 5. Yeah, this is probably 1964, actually. X-Men number 12, the first appearance of Juggernaut. This is a character that not only has familial ties to Professor X, but also is just a main villain who has appeared over and over and over again, working with Magneto as a solo character, and eventually does team up with them. I do mention that a lot. When villains do team up with the good guys on occasion, it always adds some depth to the character. And unfortunately, the movie appearances have not been great in my opinion.
Come on, Deadpool 2. He was hilarious in Deadpool 2.
He was hilarious, but I mean, I didn't particularly like. He was bad in X-Men though.
Pull them apart. Yeah, they didn't really do him well. Yeah, I actually, there are a couple of others. If you go back to Pre-Code Horror, you do a Punch Comics 12, which has that classic skull cover.
Cover that crossed my mind, but then I just couldn't put that over Harley or Juggernaut.
Yeah, and then classic covers. You also have the Fantastic 412 with the Thing Hulk cover within the cave, where the Hulk is hiding behind. I don't know why Hulk has to hide.
I
And
originally wrote that down thinking that was issue 11, and that was on my list. And then when I double checked the issue number, I was like, ah, man, that's 12. Yeah.
so
All right. On to 13. 13, I was definitely swayed by my preferences because I picked a book that's a grail of mine, a book that has been on my want list for so long, and is actually, I really specifically was trying to get it during this year, and I've got 3 days left, so it doesn't look like it's going to come to fruition. But that is Amazing Spider-Man 13, first appearance of Mysterio. This is my favorite of all of Spider-Man's villains, and I collect his cover appearances. I have his second appearance. I have the first appearance of the subsequent Mysterios, but I do not have the first appearance of Quentin Beck's Mysterio. I didn't get it this year. It never. I never found it for like a deal when I had the funds to do it. So unfortunately, it slipped through my fingers this year, but next year, especially with this market being down still, it'll still be a good time to pick it up. So I will be getting this book. I know it. I know it.
I went with a hard to find book, a character that we've seen in the MCU, and we're going to see him again. And that is Tales to Astonish number 13, the first appearance of Groot.
Yeah.
One of these pre-hero monster books that Marvel put out. Not really Groot in continuity, but this is a book since the popularity of the Guardians of the Galaxy films has just skyrocketed in value. Because prior to that, there was no differentiation between Groot and, Goom or Foo or whatever other, baby name characters.
Urg.
Urg was actually, wasn't he the first name of Wildfire?
I don't know, man.
Legion of Superheroes.
It was basically like Stan Lee was like, Jack Kirby, come over here. I'm gonna punch you in the gut, and whatever noise you make, that's gonna be the name of the monster in this book. Is oof.
I also considered Marvel Superheroes 13, which is the first appearance of Carol Danvers. Malibu Sun number 13, the first appearance of Spawn. Action Comics number 13, the first appearance of the Ultra Humanite, who's a villain that has remained. He wasn't a big white gorilla at the time. And then you talk about classic covers. Mac Ruboy did a classic cover of Captain Marvel Jr. 13, him giving Hitler a beat down on a football field.
I just found a random Captain Marvel Jr. book from 1945. We're completely off topic now, so I'm going to stop talking after this, but it was just in a random box that I had bought from a collection and hadn't completely gone through yet.
Yeah.
I'll send you a picture of that later. Anyway, on to issue number 14. Jim, you're taking this one. I think we're going to have the same one for this one and probably the next one.
Classic Spider-Man villains.
Yep. Oh, look at that.
Yeah, a nice 0.5. I mean, so frustrating. My 13 is out being cleaned and pressed by Erod. The first appearance of and you see him there on the cover of what's remaining, the first appearance of the Green Goblin. Probably, I would put him number one on Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery. And a character that keeps coming back in different incarnations. We saw him wonderfully portrayed by Willem Dafoe in the Tobey Maguire film, and also recently in No Way Home. A ridiculous character design. I had the action figure from the 70s, Amigo action figure, and just looks so with the hat and like basically he's like got, I don't know, what is it, like a sleeping cap that he's got on? It's really weird.
He's a goblin.
I don't know. It did go. I don't know. He must have been doing some substances.
Yeah.
The stuff he created.
Yeah, so I figured we agree on this one. I'm with you that he's number one as far as Spider-Man's Rogues Gallery. Although I do think he is tied with Dr. Octopus, in my opinion. We could argue that all day, but I actually watched Comic Pop, their YouTube channel, and they discuss storylines and stuff. And they discuss like basically Silver Age. Green Goblin stuff, and they were like, man, this character is so ridiculous. Like, why is he like this at all? And yeah, it just he is truly stood the test of time. The fact that he has a big connection with Peter through his son Harry Osborn, and then also he's responsible for the death of Gwen Stacy, and then in part responsible for his own death in the very next issue, and then the mantle gets carried on to Harry, and then Phil Ulrich later, and a couple other characters, and there's Normie Osborn and stuff like that. This is a character who has not only stood the test of time himself, but has a huge legacy. So I think it was a pretty obvious choice here for issue 14. I really had nothing else come to mind because this one just popped in so fast that I didn't really think of any other issue 14s.
Yeah, well, X-Men 14 was the first Sentinels.
Yeah.
And a more modern book, Iron Fist 14, which is a very popular Bronze Age book for Sabretooth.
Yeah.
That was about all I had. Yeah, it was easy to go to this one.
And
it'll be easier for the next one.
The next one. I think the next one is let's do it. Let's say it on 3, just like we did in the last video. 1, 2, 3. Amazing Fantasy 15. Yep. The first appearance of Spider-Man. As far as Marvel goes, there is certainly no character that's that matches this character in popularity. And honestly, overall comics, that's probably the case too. You could argue maybe Batman, but that's it. That's it. There's Spider-Man and Batman, and they are top dogs in the comic book game. This character has my dad watched this character as a kid. My 6-year-old nephew watches this character. I watch this character. You, Jim, who are in between my age and my dad's age, watched this character, read this character. He's never going to go away.
Right. And I think, he was Fantastic Four came first. But I think Spider-Man had more of an impact. Fantastic Four, obviously, early on had, a huge impact with all the Kirby work. But, I don't think that Fantastic Four really hit its stride until right around into the 40s. I think they were still trying to find their way, whereas Spider-Man with Ditko seemed to hit the ground running pretty quickly in terms of creating iconic characters and iconic stories.
Yeah, I named ASM 3 in yesterday's video. Sorry about the spoiler if you didn't watch that one yet. And then 13, 14 in this one, and AF 15, and the classic Jack Kirby cover is just one of the most iconic covers ever. It's been homaged a billion times.
I have a feeling we might get more Fantastic Four as we get, into the 40s to the 90s.
Yeah, if we end up going that far, which, by the way, I said this yesterday, if you like this style of video, let us know in the comments below, and we'll go beyond issue 20.
Please stop.
If you hate it, let us know too. We won't do it anymore. But I think it's a cool
video.
On to 16. We're halfway done today's video. You're up, Jim.
The first appearance of an iconic character in a book that's exceedingly hard to find, and that's All American Comics number 16, the first appearance of the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott.
I thought you were going to do this one.
Yeah, it's, we talked about how most of the characters in the Golden Age, and even in the Silver Age, like Spider-Man and Amazing Fantasy 15, did not premiere in their own books. They premiered in these anthology titles. And we'll see, I think, more of those as we start going through this, because, a lot of these anthology titles had already been in place doing different kinds of content over the years. And, All American Comics was one of DC's first comics. They, Hop Harrigan, who was an air fighter, was the star. He was the cover character in issue number 1. There are only 30 universal copies on the census, 3 qualified and 28 restored. The highest, there is a 9.4. So it's almost as rare as Action 1 and Detective 27.
Yeah.
It's in that same area of scarcity / rarity. And we would talk about that he's in that A- tier of DC characters.
Yeah.
Green Lantern had his own comic in the 1940s, and obviously when the characters rebooted with Hal Jordan, that's been a very popular character that has spawned other incarnations: Green Lantern Corps and John Stewart and Guy Gardner and Jessica Cruz and all the different alien lanterns. So and in Crisis, when the post-Crisis, when DC removed Superman and Batman from the Golden Age continuity, Green Lantern really was kind of the first main superhero, and the one that had significant powers. Obviously, it came around probably around the same time as Flash.
Yeah.
Original member of the Justice Society, all that. So, goofy costume, kind of interesting costume. But
They definitely improved in the Silver Age with the costume and going forward, for sure. Yeah, I thought you were going to pick that one. I also went with a Golden Age DC book. There are tons of supporting characters in comics. There are sidekicks, super powered ones. As far as the non-super powered sidekicks or supporting characters, if you will, there are a few that really, really, really stick out to me. Two above all, in my opinion, or maybe three. There's the love interests of Lois Lane and Mary Jane Watson, who both do, I believe, have superpowers at some point. But this third one, Alfred Pennywise, and his first appearance is in Batman
Pennyworth.
number 16. What?
Pennyworth. Pennywise.
Pennywise.
Clown.
Alfred Pennywise. It's
we have
Alfred
superheroes down here.
Wait, that's when Alfred becomes the Joker. He's Alfred Pennywise. That makes sense. Yeah, Alfred Pennyworth. Sorry about that, everybody. Yeah, Alfred. He's Alfred. We've seen him in every iteration of Batman. Sometimes a totally different take on the character, whether he's like a former spy or just some cool old butler that helps out Bruce Wayne. He's always been there until his recent death, of course. But yeah, he's
died
before.
before.
Yeah, and fun fact, yeah, he has died before. But I had a Roomba who I put googly eyes on and named Alfred at one point. Unfortunately, he broke. He was my butler.
He's dead too.
Yeah, he died too. R.I.P. Alfred.
So yeah, I had that on my list. The other book I had on my list was 4-Color number 16, which is the first Mickey Mouse in a standard comic book.
Is that the ink blot one?
Yes.
Yeah. That's a grail. Any Disney collector, that's a huge grail. Hard book to find.
Jerry the Jitterbug just did a series recently where he restored one, or conserved one, I should say. He does conservation, not restoration.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd be afraid to touch that book.
Yeah, he's not.
Yeah. All right, on to number 17. I'm starting this one off, an odd one. I mentioned in yesterday's video that I did have a Matt Baker coming up, and did you pick the same book? You're smiling.
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, the headlights are shining in my eyes.
The headlights. So we are referring to Phantom Lady number 17, a Golden Age, really cool character. Honestly, one of the first female characters that really, she wasn't a damsel in distress or a supporting character or love interest. She was a badass woman who came along and kicked the asses of a bunch of dudes. And Phantom Lady, really cool character, way ahead of her time. And this is just one of the most iconic covers as far as Phantom Lady go. It's considered to be a good girl cover, a bondage cover. Matt Baker, one of the the great Golden Age artists, did it. And it was also used in the book Seduction of the Innocent to kind of shed a bad shadow, lay a bad shadow on comic books and was part of a big, major court case and stuff like that, and went to Congress and all this stuff to try to say that this book somehow, instilled, depravity in the people reading them. So, comic books shouldn't exist, when in reality, some books should just be for kids and some books should be for adults, as they are now. But yeah, a copy sold from the Promise collection just last year. I think it was like a 9.6, and it sold for like several $100,000. I think somewhere
400 plus
yeah,
$400,000.
it was one of the ones that was close to $500,000.
Yeah, because it was that and the first Riddler that were the two big ones in that first Promise collection sale.
Those were
Everybody was going crazy for the Promise collection, and
yeah,
the market was on fire
at an all-time high. Yeah, I mean, realistically, those books probably would sell for reasonably close to what they sold for today, even just because of the scarcity. But yeah, Phantom Lady 17. What do you got to say about it?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Interesting. Phantom Lady's an interesting character because she first appeared in Police Comics #1, which was a quality comic along with Plastic Man.
Yeah.
And that I think Sandra Knight version of the character was then bought by DC Comics. When Quality Comics stopped publishing Phantom Lady books in the mid 40s, the Iger Studios, who had created her for Fawcett, basically took her over to Fox, and I guess there were no lawsuits at the time. So in the Quality Comics, she had a yellow costume and a green cape, and then when she went over, she had the blue costume with the red cape, I believe. And I'm not sure, I haven't really read many. I've probably over the years read a few stories of hers. It would be kind of interesting to just take a look at those. Again, you talk about female characters, female superheroes were very, that headlined their own books were few and far between.
Yeah.
For most of comic book history, especially in the Golden Age. They're probably more popular in the Golden Age than the Silver Age, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you had Wonder Woman and Phantom Lady, and
I'm
the
sure
rest of the stuff is like romance stuff, not superhero stuff.
Yeah, you had some of the Jungle, Sheena.
Sure. Jungle Comics. Yeah.
Was Sheena no, she was the Marvel character. Who's the one that was Tanya Roberts played in the film?
Shanna the She-Devil?
No, Sheena was the one from the 40s.
Yeah.
Shanna was
the Marvel one.
Right, yeah. So
we're on to 18.
Moving right along, and I'm going to stay in the Golden Age, and I'm going to stay with a female superhero. I'm going to go with Captain Marvel Adventures #18, which is the first appearance of Mary Marvel. And this beautiful cover where she's introduced as Billy Batson's long-lost twin sister. They've changed it for modern, the modern comics and the appearances in the movies. We're going to see her again in the new Shazam film. A character that's been around forever, was one of those, kind of offshoot characters of the male superhero. Interestingly, Otto Binder, who was one of I guess was the writer on the story that created Mary Marvel along with C.C. Beck, was also the writer on the story that created Supergirl. And you see a lot of similarities between the two characters, essentially the same costume, but with a skirt, a relative. So, just a classic, Golden Age character. And she did have her own title for maybe about 24 issues in the Golden Age. And she also was the headliner on WoW Comics for quite a while.
Nice. I picked an interesting one here, and this is more towards just nostalgia for me. I had a tattered up copy of this book as a kid, and I read it because I was real into monsters. There's a Bronze Age horror book, Tomb of Dracula 18, and it's a crossover. I believe the first crossover between Dracula and Werewolf by Night. Two of the four kind of flagship Marvel Bronze Age horror characters. And I read this book to death as a kid, and then recently have reacquired a nice high grade copy for my Bronze Age horror collection, and I got I got it recently, which is probably why it was fresh in my mind. It is a great story. It might I don't maybe it's not the first Bronze Age horror crossover, but it's certainly up there with one of the first ones. Um, you know, where they really started putting those characters, those horror characters together, rather than there's a bunch of crossovers with them into the superhero stuff, but putting them together and then eventually led to the creation of the Legion of Monsters and the taking that aspect and that horror genre in Marvel Comics to the next level, which I'm hoping they do in the movies a little bit more. We got Man Thing, we had Morbius in Sony, but we definitely had more of a horror vibe in Multiverse of Madness and then the Werewolf by Night special. So, fingers crossed they do more with that in the future.
Well, they could certainly do Dracula instead of Morbius if they introduce Dracula.
Oh yeah,
in the MCU. Which my Tomb of Dracula one sitting over there would like to see happen.
Oh yeah, both of them. Yep. Or did you sell the other one?
No. The 6.0 did not sell.
Okay.
And the 9.4 is in the PC.
Yep.
There were actually a couple of other ones I considered here. The other one that I looked at Ms. Marvel number 18, which is the first full appearance of Mystique.
Yeah,
the character we saw in all the X-Men films, and Marvel Superheroes 18, which is the first appearance of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
The reason I didn't go with that is because that's a much different incarnation of the Guardians than what we've seen in the movies.
Yeah, it's weird looking Yondu and some other guys
at the post credits of Guardians Volume 2.
Yeah. I was thinking Mystique, but this book to me, more on like a personal level,
right,
was like the one that just came to mind, especially having recently picked up a copy of it. All right, on to our last two, 19 and 20. I gotta look at my phone for 20. Oh, right. 19, I do remember that one. That is Chamber of Chills 19. All the way back to some more Golden Age pre-code horror stuff. This is just one of the most iconic covers as far as pre-code horror goes. Lee Elias cover. It's got this woman. This woman's face, and you see her face normally, but then when you're looking through the glass, you see a skeletal face, and really just Lee Elias. Definitely, up there with like Matt Baker and L.B. Cole as far as, the great artists of the Golden Age, and certainly one of the most focused on horror stuff. Some of the weirdest covers have come from this guy. So this has been used on like T-shirts that don't even have anything to do with comics. I've seen it used on records and stuff like that, or similar interpretations of it, used over and over again, homages. And this is the book that is just an absolute grail of mine. I saw one at a recent convention for $12,000. I did not have that money at the time, nor will I anytime soon for comic books, but you never know. It might end up in my collection at some point if I can, get it together.
Yeah. Hey, you got to have goals.
Gotta have goals.
I went with, we talked about in yesterday's episode, the first super team. This is probably the third one, the first one of what we now know as Marvel Comics, and that's All Winners Comics, number 19, the first team up of the All Winners squad, which was Captain America and Bucky, Submariner, Human Torch, Toro, Wizard, and Miss America.
Okay.
And they continued through the rest of the run, having their team up of those characters. And that was something we saw kind of come back in the 1970s with Roy Thomas's Invaders run. So I went with a classic, timely book. I guess this is my second timely on the list.
Yeah. We've had a nice stretch we've had some golden age, we've had a lot of golden age and silver age, but we've thrown some bronze, copper, and modern in there.
Yeah. The other thing
Actually,
I was considering that because a couple of first appearances that come out, but I don't neither of them are on the cover. I think they're underappreciated books, and that's All American Comics number 19, which is the first appearance of the Golden Age Atom.
mhm.
He's not on the cover. He is an original member of the Justice Society, which I believe is his first cover appearance. And then Fear 19, which is the first appearance of Howard the Duck, which is a really undervalued book.
Mhm.
If we see some sort of series, either somewhat live action or animated, with Seth Green reprising his vocal role as Howard the Duck, maybe that'll get more love. But he's not on the cover, so
Yeah, it's tough.
it doesn't really have the same appeal.
I had a tough time going with Chamber of Chills, despite how much I love that book, because Walking Dead 19 is the first Michonne, and it's an amazing cover too. So, and with Michonne and her two walkers next to her, that one was really tough to take off the list and go with Chamber of Chills, but it certainly was the other option for me.
Right.
All right. On to the last book. You're first here.
I'm going to go to a theme that we've had over and over again. Spider-Man villains. Amazing Spider-Man number 20. The first appearance of the Scorpion. And just another classic Spider-Man villain. A very popular book, a great cover appearance of the Scorpion. And a character we've seen as Matt Gargan in the movies. We haven't yet seen the Scorpion. Who knows if they're going to pay that off or not? Maybe, Sony will do a spin-off film and it'll be terrible.
Yeah, probably. This one certainly, when I hit that number 20, this one popped in my head initially. Did some more thinking, some more research on it. And I ended up going away from it. I went once again to another Golden Age book and another Golden Age Batman book. Issue number 20 of Batman is the first cover appearance of the Batmobile. It is one of those great covers where something is crashing through a solid background. It's got a solid yellow background and the Batmobile itself crashing through. When it comes to Batman, like his repertoire, his vehicles, his gadgets, that is what, makes the character. He doesn't have superpowers. He just has, billions of dollars to make these things. Yeah. So, the Batmobile is probably, in my opinion, the most iconic of all his repertoire of things that he uses, technology. And this cover's just, it's there. It's everything you want in a Golden Age cover, big blocky letters and the solid background and a great action shot. So I went with that one. Definitely a book that is on my list that I'd like to pick up at some point, but is a pricey one.
Interestingly, another book that I considered is a book that is a grail of mine, but is probably unattainable. Now that I completed my leading comics run of all the stories of the Seven Soldiers of Victory from the Golden Age, the first appearances of each of the 5 features, because the sidekicks appeared with
Crimson Avenger.
The Crimson Avenger and Detective Comics 20 it's More Fun 73, which is the first appearance of Green Arrow and Speedy and Aquaman in More Fun Comics 73. Is a hugely expensive book, but this is a rare book. There are only 21 copies on the CGC census, 16 universal copies. There is a 9.2 though.
What?
It's a 1938 book. This is, 7 issues before Batman appears in Detective 27. Spoiler warning for the next episode.
We'll agree on that one.
It's just an absolute ghost of a book. It's so early that to have survived, and it's it's just an impossible book to find. You know, obviously, Amazing Spider-Man is an expensive book. It's a Silver Age key, but you know, you can find it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure you went on eBay right now. There's a copy available.
You go to any convention, and a bigger convention, and there are several dealers, sometimes with multiple copies of that book. Whereas, these Golden Age books, you're lucky to find one in a room.
Yeah, you'd have to like just scour Heritage for month after month just to see it finally come up, and then have to sell your house.
Right.
Yeah, there's this Amazing Spider-Man 20 now with 3 days left to bid. There's a 4.0 qualified. There's a $255 best offer. 5.0 qualified. So I'm seeing 5 copies, 6 copies, 7, 8, 9 on eBay right now. Whereas if I go to Detective, I'm pretty sure it's gonna like give me similar.
Yeah, you
might
have like a coverless copy up there for thousands of dollars.
I'm getting DVDs that I have to put in comics.
Detective 20.
Yeah, it comes up as Harley Quinn 20 is the closest because it's an homage. Oh no, there's a 1.8 up there for $4,500. Buy it now.
Snatch it up.
Maybe I'll make an offer.
Do it.
There's no offer. I'll watch it.
Measures them.
I'll watch it. Just
might as well. So yeah, there's one copy on eBay as opposed to, a dozen or more. All right, so that takes our list all the way up to issue number 20. Once again, if you did not watch yesterday's video, which was issue 1 through 10, link is in the description below. That's over on Jim's channel, Bronzeville Comics. If you're not subscribed to him, go do so. If you manage to come over here from watching Jim's video and you're not subscribed to me, make sure you hit that subscribe button, like this video, and comment on it. That does enter you to win our giveaway. We got this great 9.8 slab of a 1 in 25 variant of Edge of Spider-Verse #1 with this Aranya cover. And yeah, if we get some good feedback on these 2 videos, so let us know in the comments. We will do issues 21 through 30 and 31 through 40 on these 2 channels next week. Jim, what do you have to say?
Yeah, leave the comments below. Let you know if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, if there's something you missed. It's like, how could you guys have missed Deathstroke the Terminator #15, the first appearance as a child of Rose Wilson? There's probably plenty of comics out there that other people would consider their grails. We both went with some more personal picks. There's some obvious ones, obviously Amazing Fantasy 15 is the one. And I think the Heritage Promise Collection sale of Phantom Lady 17 kind of seared that in both of our minds as a huge key.
Yeah, I got to hold one a couple months ago at Baltimore Comic-Con. Someone had a copy of that book, and I got to look at it and look at the price tag and realize that I would probably never own it, but hey, it is what it is.
You never know. Maybe you'll find it in the collection.
That would be one heck of a collection. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, check out our Instagrams, check out our other YouTube videos and all that stuff. And until next time,
enjoy your comics
and turn the page. Wash your hands.